How strong will every Straw Hat become by the end of One Piece, and how will they achieve their greatest dream before the story ends? And what is Luffy's true secret dream anyway? In this video, I will break down every Straw Hat's ultimate goal and how strong they will have to become to attain it by the end of the story. And guess what? I will explain how one single epic event at the very end of One Piece will allow all of the Straw Hats to achieve their true dreams at the same time. This is the one big event that the entire story is building up to, so stick around until the end because the twist will shock you. First up, let's talk about the founder of the Straw Hats, Monkey D. Luffy, and what drives him to be the incredible pirate captain that he's become over the course of more than 1,100 chapters. Luffy wastes no time letting us know what he's after. The very first episode is literally named, "I'm Luffy, the man who's gonna be king of the pirates." So before we even begin the series, we kind of know what keeps our protagonist going. This initial dream of his had to come from somewhere though. When Luffy was a kid, he idolized and was mentored by Captain Shanks, a pirate with great strength, resolve, and most notably a badass Straw Hat with a long and storied history. When Luffy was still a kid, Shanks left him behind in Fuchsia Village to go back out to sea with his pirate crew. But Luffy vowed to become a great pirate captain in his own right, to make his own crew and one day surpass Shanks by finding the world's greatest treasure and becoming the Pirate King. Before he left, Shanks sensed Luffy's incredible determination and willpower, and so he gifted his hat to Luffy and told him not to return it until he becomes a great pirate. After Luffy finally set out on his own pirate adventure at the age of 17, he continued to develop his devil fruit powers, which he gained after accidentally eating a strange fruit that Shanks and his crew brought to Fuchsia Village. Luffy slowly grew in notoriety as he took on powerful enemies like Warlord Crocodile, the False God Enel, and eventually even the Yonko Kaido, the Admiral Kizaru, and now the Gorosei. We've seen Luffy learning to enter Gear 2nd to get a huge speed boost, Gear 3rd for more power, and Gear 4th to bring in Haki and augment his skills even further. However, the most insane jump in Luffy's power and skills came from awakening Gear 5th. This is the moment we learned that Luffy did not actually possess a rubber-based paramecia fruit, but rather a legendary mythical zone devil fruit named after a god, the Nika devil fruit. The power of this fruit gives Luffy complete freedom and allows him to manipulate the world around him to his will. We've seen him do everything from turning into a giant and bending the battlefield to bounce things off of it, to grabbing lightning itself and spitting Kaido so fast his eyes popped out like a cartoon. But as amazing as Gear 5th turned out to be, and as legendary as the Nika Devil Fruit ended up being in the wider context of Joy Boy and the Void Century and everything else that comes with it, we have to remember that Luffy only recently awakened Gear 5th. Remember how imperfect Luffy's usage of the other gears was initially, before he had time to train with them and master them. Gear 2nd shortened his lifespan. Gear 3rd made him tiny for a short time, Gear 4th basically knocked him out every time he used it, and Gear 5th is nowhere near perfect yet, so we will definitely see it grow and become even more powerful over time. But one thing I really wonder about is whether there could be multiple forms to Gear 5th. Like for example, Gear 4th had Bounce Man, Snake Man, and Tank Man, so will Gear 5th have different forms as well that Luffy might unlock as he continues to master this new gear? Since the Nika Devil Fruit is the most ridiculous power in the world, and since it is literally shaped by Luffy's own imagination, it isn't impossible to think that Luffy will unlock new forms as he faces new challenges that require new ways of fighting back. But what does Luffy actually need to become the Pirate King? He needs a crew and a ship, an increasingly large bounty on his head, and he needs to find the world's greatest treasure in order to uncover the real truth of the world. In order to achieve this, he will certainly have to master the Nika Devil Fruit, he will need to overcome massive challenges posed by rivals such as Blackbeard and the world government, and he will need to use his Straw Hat Grand Fleet to completely reshape the world as we know it. But how exactly will he reshape the world itself? And how is this related to the One Piece treasure, the Void Century, and the 3 ancient weapons? I will explain all of that at the end of the video, but first let's talk about how Zoro fits into this whole picture. Roronoa Zoro was the first to actually join the Straw Hats. Before Zoro joined, the Straw Hat Pirates were just Luffy daydreaming about one day forming a pirate crew. Luffy seeks Zoro out after hearing about his fearsome reputation as a pirate bounty hunter, and he helps Zoro escape his scheduled execution at the hands of the Marines. Upon joining the Straw Hats, Zoro's role becomes first mate and master swordsman, Which brings us to Zoro's greatest dream, to become the world's greatest and strongest swordsman. Zoro is a master of the three-sword style, and he fights with a sword in each hand as well as a third sword that he holds between his teeth. And that pleb Kirito thought he was so special for his dual wielding. To become the greatest swordsman in the world, Roronoa Zoro will obviously have to defeat the current holder of that title, Dracul Mihawk. Until he can do this, Zoro has been doing his best to live up to his promise to Luffy and remain undefeated against any other swordsman. And of course, Zoro's first showdown against Mihawk, in which he got schooled spectacularly, was a pivotal moment in his life and in his character development. Zoro would eventually go on to train under Dracul Mihawk for 2 years during the time skip, which taught him a lot about sword fighting and made him that much stronger. Mihawk even seems to believe that Zoro could be the one to surpass him one day, and he says, "However long it may take, I shall await you at the top. Strive with your whole heart and mind to best this blade, fierce one. Strive to surpass me." Zoro is obviously already incredibly strong. Even Mihawk thinks so and sees a lot of potential in him. His 3-sword, 2-sword, and even no-sword styles are highly developed, but he isn't as proficient in single-sword wielding, so that is one area where he could have some room for improvement. He could also master a mix between the strong and gentle blade styles like Mihawk has done. To become the world's greatest swordsman himself, Zoro should strive to master as many sword techniques as possible, even sword techniques that are not necessarily familiar to him. Zoro is also insanely durable. He can go for days without eating and still have strength to fight, and he is constantly spending his free time in some sort of endurance training. He is likely trying to raise his endurance with the Haki-infused King of Hell 3-sword style and develop it further in order to be able to use it for longer periods of time. Fully mastering this terrifying technique could be the key to making Zoro not just one of the strongest swordsmen in the world, but the absolute strongest swordsman, period. Many people believe that Zoro will eventually end up defeating Mihawk in order to achieve his dream of becoming the world's greatest swordsman. However, Mihawk is clearly not a villain, and many feel that he is more likely to become an ally of the Straw Hats than an enemy. If that's the case, then it's possible that Zoro will never get the chance to actually face Mihawk in a serious battle to the death, because they're both gonna be on the same side. Because of this, some believe that another swordsman like Shiryu of the Rain will end up killing Mihawk by the end of the story, and this will then give the title of the world's greatest swordsman to that person, at least temporarily. If this happens, Zoro will then have all the motivation in the world to kill Shiryu or whoever and claim the title of the world's strongest swordsman for himself. There's also the theory that the true strongest swordsman in the world is not Mihawk, but the katana-wielding Gorosei named Ethan Baron V. Nusjuro, who also has an epic devil fruit that allows him to turn into an incredibly fast centaur swordsman. Some believe that he is actually stronger than Mihawk, but the world just doesn't know it because the Gorosei like to stay in the shadows. What do you guys think? Will Zoro defeat Mihawk to claim the title, or will he end up facing someone else like Shiryu or Nusjuro? Let me know down in the comments below. One thing that I think will definitely happen before Zoro attains his strongest final form is that he will produce his own Black Blade. More specifically, I believe that the Wado Ichimonji, after years of being used by Zoro in battle, will be infused with enough Haki to permanently turn black. And this will signal an important moment in Zoro's quest to become the strongest swordsman. We even did a theory video on this channel that Enma might be one of those rare inanimate objects that somehow consumed a devil fruit. And if that's the case, then Zoro's final form could involve him learning to use the sword's secret devil fruit power. Obviously that's just speculating for fun, but it would be pretty cool. Now Luffy and Zoro definitely make a great team, but with how seriously directionally challenged they both are, there was no way for them to successfully continue as pirates without some serious help. That's where our next Straw Hat comes into play. Nami's ultimate goal in life is to draw a map of the entire world and its oceans. This dream came from Nami's love of drawing her own maps as a kid, and it was nurtured by the praise she would receive from her adoptive mother, Bellamere. Nami had a secondary goal as well: to free her village from oppression at the hands of the Arlong pirates. This was a major objective for Nami in the early stages of the story, but thankfully she was able to achieve it in the Arlong Park arc. Nevertheless, even after her village was freed, Nami decided to join the Straw Hat Pirates and sail to the Grand Line and the New World because she still wanted to become the world's greatest navigator and history's greatest cartographer. And yet, throughout her adventures with the Straw Hats, Nami's personality retains aspects of her original dream to free the people of her village. At the core of Nami's character is a desire to stop the suffering of innocent people, be they fishmen, the children on Punk Hazard, or the minks on Zou. Just like she wanted to help the people of her village, Nami always tries to help those in need. Even if she asks for money first, like she did with Vivi and Alabasta, she will end up helping regardless as long as she believes that it's the right thing to do. While some of her crewmates certainly have larger and more awe-inspiring dreams, like becoming the Pirate King or the strongest swordsman, Nami's dreams are also important and they could end up saving many lives in the future. Aside from actively helping the people that the Straw Hats have come across on their journey, Nami's maps could help travelers in the future to arrive safely at their destination without getting lost at sea and likely losing their lives as a result. On top of that, I believe that in the final battle of One Piece, the very landscape of the world will be altered, and Nami will be there to map these changes and become the first person to create an accurate map of the whole world. Stick around until the end of the video to find out more. While Nami doesn't technically need to be exceptionally strong to make a map of the entire world, that doesn't mean that she's weak. Nami is agile, clever, strong-willed, and can hold her own in a fight when necessary. She's certainly not the strongest Straw Hat, but she can absolutely hold her own in important battles. I mean, even Luffy is scared of her incredible punches, although part of that is just a gag. Probably. Along with charting the world, Nami has also been progressing in her ability to manipulate the weather. And as more time passes, it is likely that Nami's skills in controlling the weather will continue to grow. Now obviously these powers could be greatly supplemented if Nami were to eat a strong devil fruit, such as like a water logia or something along those lines, but even without a devil fruit, weather manipulation can be an incredibly powerful technique. Not only is it obviously good for battle, but it can also be extremely useful for achieving Nami's other dream, helping innocent people all over the world. Just imagine how many people Nami could help and how many lives she could save if she uses her weather manipulation techniques to save starving villages from drought, or to lessen the impact of potentially devastating storms and natural disasters. She could literally save thousands of lives, potentially a lot more than even the strongest warrior could ever save on his own. I believe that even beyond mapping the entire world, helping people is Nami's most important and most cherished dream. And with the power of weather manipulation on her side, she could save entire villages, towns, and maybe even countries. This could be Nami's true purpose, and it will all come together in the final arc of the story. Next, we're moving to the Sniper King and expert marksman, Usopp. Usopp's dream is to become a brave sniper and fearsome pirate like his father Yasopp, a member of Shanks' crew, the legendary Red Hair Pirates. Usopp especially wants to be known for being brave, since that is not something that comes to him naturally, and he dreams of one day visiting Elbaf because the giants of Elbaf are legendary for their courageous warrior spirit. He sets out to sea with Luffy's crew on the Going Merry after the events of Syrup Village and begins his life as a true pirate. He is first introduced as a bit of a liar and coward. He likes to mess with people and exaggerate, he's not very strong, and in fact he's one of the weaker members of the Straw Hats, although he does get much stronger as the story progresses. And we have to remember that Usopp has unique strengths that the other members do not, and these strengths can sometimes play a pivotal role in battle. Usopp is endlessly creative and resourceful, he is an inventor of weapons and gadgets, and he is a brilliant sharpshooter. He can make weapons, ammunition, and upgrades for himself and the crew, and he has a sharp eye for engineering. What he lacks in raw physical power, he makes up for in cunning and tactical thinking. On top of that, at times his fierce determination can even rival Luffy's. But to become a legendary pirate like his father, someone known throughout the world for his strength and bravery, Usopp does need to make a couple of changes. To become more effective in major battles that are surely coming up in the final arcs, he needs to trade weapons like slingshots for something that packs a stronger punch, like advanced firearms and cannons. Combining more powerful weapons with custom ammunition created by Usopp himself could make him one of the most effective warriors in the final arc, especially if the final battle ends up being a large one that involves entire fleets fighting each other with artillery, like the World Government Fleet versus the Straw Hat Grand Fleet. In fact, as we learn more about the advanced technology of the Ancient Kingdom, including its ancient weapons, Usopp's skills as an engineer and an inventor could help the Straw Hats to repurpose ancient technology and use it to their own advantage in the final battle. And of course, Franky will also be a lot of help in this regard, but more on Franky later. Another key way that Usopp could progress as a character is for him to take on more of a leadership role once the Straw Hat Grand Fleet finally fully assembles. Perhaps Usopp can take charge of all the long-range weapons and all the fighters who are capable of long-range attacks, including potentially some giants that are definitely going to join the fleet. Earlier in the story, Usopp kept saying that he should be the captain of the Straw Hats instead of Luffy, and many of his fantastical exaggerations somehow managed to come true later on in the story. So maybe he will end up becoming a captain in his own right once the Straw Hat Grand Fleet assembles. Luffy will of course be the commander or the admiral of the entire fleet, but I can definitely see Usopp taking on an important captain role and commanding the long-range weapons with Luffy's blessing. If this happens, Usopp may actually surpass the fame and notoriety of his father Usopp, which would mean that he has definitely attained and maybe even surpassed his greatest dream. Next up, let's talk about Sanji, whose main dream is to find the All Blue, the place where all four seas meet. This isn't only his dream, but also the dream of his mentor Zeph, and so Sanji sets out on the search for this mythical place for both of their sakes. Sanji's desire to reach the All Blue is directly related to his love of cooking, and he believes that the All Blue will allow him to obtain all the best ingredients from all over the world right there in one place. But despite being the cook of the Straw Hat Pirates, Sanji is still very much a fighter, and in fact he is part of the famous Straw Hat Monster Trio, which consists of himself, Zoro, and Luffy. Much like Nami, in order to reach his goals, Sanji knows that he needs to take to the seas. Just like Nami can't map the world without traveling the world, Sanji can't find the All Blue without traveling all over the world to find it. So Sanji decides to leave the Baratier and join the Straw Hats as their cook, but that's clearly not his only contribution to the crew. Sanji is incredibly strong. As we later learn, he and his siblings were genetically modified to be superhuman, and they were literally bred for war by their ruthless father, Vinsmoke Judge. Sanji, the former prince of the Germa Kingdom turned master chef, learned all about the All Blue from a cookbook while he was still a child and being imprisoned by his cruel father. Finding the All Blue became his dream after he finally ran away from his family. Sanji's real father figure is Zeph, a man who saved him from drowning and from starving to death on a remote island. The two of them eventually bonded over their mutual interest in the All Blue and became like father and son. Because of the traumatic experience that Sanji and Zeph had on that remote island, where they both nearly starved to death before finally being rescued, Sanji promised that he would never let someone starve if he could help it, even if that person is a villain. Sometime later, Zeph opened the Baratier with Sanji as his sous chef, and the two set out to make great food for a great many people. It's no question that cooking is very close to Sanji's heart. His respect for the culinary arts is the reason he never uses his hands or kitchen utensils as weapons, since to him these things are practically sacred, and so they are reserved for cooking. Because it's borderline sacrilegious for Sanji to use his hands in a fight, he primarily fights with his legs and feet, and he is known for unleashing powerful fiery kicks at his enemies. Now, although the existence of the All Blue is hinted at in the filler episodes of the anime, its existence is not actually confirmed in the manga. That said, the All Blue is rumored to be somewhere in the Grand Line, so if that's true, then traveling with Luffy will eventually lead Sanji to fulfill his greatest dream. But we have to remember that the All Blue could be just a myth, or perhaps something that used to exist many centuries ago, as in before the Void Century. If that's the case, then there could be another way that the All Blue appears, and this is directly related to the final battle in the series. As I already said, I'll bring it all together at the end of the video, but do me a quick favor right now and like and subscribe for that YouTube algorithm. Alongside the question of whether Sanji will ever be able to find the All Blue, one of the biggest questions about Sanji is how his powers may change and grow between now and the end of the story. Sanji doesn't have a devil fruit, but coming to terms with his family's genetics and embracing his Vinsmoke abilities is definitely going to play a major role in the evolution of his power. Recently, Sanji has demonstrated that he is actually way stronger than we thought, as he showcased brand new abilities like being so fast that he practically turns invisible and having a nearly indestructible exoskeleton. I can't wait to see what other new abilities and power-ups Sanji can unlock as he becomes accustomed to his genetically modified body. Finally, along with finding the All Blue and attaining new epic power-ups and forms, I'd love to see Sanji settle down with a girl by the end of the story. Sanji is such an interesting and nuanced character, and I'd love to see him stop getting nosebleeds over random girls and develop a meaningful relationship with a woman and maybe even start a family. You just know that Sanji would love cooking for his wife and kids, and that is something that I would love to see before the story is over. He could even open a family restaurant with his wife and bring his journey full circle, feeding the hungry by making them the finest meals using the finest ingredients that the All Blue has to offer. Tony Chopper is the 6th member of the Straw Hats, and he aspires to be the greatest doctor, a doctor who can cure any illness. He is the 2nd member of the crew to have eaten a devil fruit. He is a reindeer who ate the human fruit, and this turns him into a reindeer-human hybrid. Like most members of the Straw Hat Pirates, Chopper has a tragic backstory. After being cast aside by his herd and shot at by the people of Drum Island, he was taken in by Dr. Hiraluk, who encouraged Chopper to become a doctor and taught him that every disease has a cure. This is a principle that Chopper still lives by. He believes that curing every disease in the world is possible, and he wants to help make that happen. After Dr. Hiriluk's death, Chopper began developing his devil fruit powers and learning medicine under Dr. Kureha. Over the next 6 years, he received an extensive medical education, and this prepared him to become the doctor for the Straw Hats. Since the Straw Hats are very prone to injuries due to the fact that they are constantly out fighting villains and saving the world, Chopper has his work cut out for him. To one day become a doctor who can cure any illness, Chopper will have to treat lots of illnesses along the way. He has studied medicine extensively, but there is no substitute for hands-on experience, especially because living on Drum Island alone isn't going to expose you to all the many cures and diseases that the world has to offer. In order to learn to cure every disease, you have to spend a lot of time traveling the world extensively, and joining the Straw Hats allowed Chopper to do exactly that. Chopper is already an excellent doctor, and he has been getting better and better as the story unfolds, especially since he often finds himself in difficult situations that force him to try new and innovative medical strategies in order to save the lives of his friends and other innocent people. Chopper still has a lot of room to grow, and there are still many rare medical texts and ingredients for him to discover. He may even meet legendary doctors along the way and learn how to improve his craft from them directly. Chopper's ability to create a Rumble Ball, a drug that can alter and enhance the power of devil fruits, showcases the full extent of Chopper's potential. It is possible that he will come up with more ways to alter and enhance devil fruit powers for both himself and his crewmates. I mean, just imagine if Chopper develops a drug that can allow Gear 5 Luffy to become even stronger than he is now by unlocking the full forgotten power of the Nika devil fruit. This is literally the power that allowed the historical Joy Boy to wage an all-out war against the world government for an entire century, allegedly. I think that Chopper will one day be the one to cure all the unfortunate users of the Smile devil fruits. And he may even come up with a drug that can somehow weaken devil fruit users by messing with their powers. With how strong Blackbeard has become now that he can use multiple devil fruits, I wouldn't be surprised if a drug developed by Chopper ends up playing a part in defeating Blackbeard by making his own overpowered devil fruits essentially turn on him, but we'll have to wait and see. Next up, let's talk about Nico Robin, who is primarily driven by the desire to find and decipher the poneglyphs, which would allow her to uncover the true history of the world that is written on the so-called Rio poneglyph. Because Robin has the exceedingly rare ability to actually read the poneglyphs, she has been hunted by the world government ever since she was a child. In fact, her home island of Ohara was destroyed along with everyone else she knew and loved in order to prevent the inhabitants of Ohara from discovering and sharing the true history of the world. Since Robin grew up on Ohara among many scholars and archaeologists, her desire for truth and knowledge was ingrained within her from a very young age. But on top of that, the tragic fate of Ohara, including the death of her own mother Nico Olvia, gives Robin further motivation to do exactly what the world government doesn't want her to do, which is to uncover the real truth. It seems clear that whoever does learn the truth of the world will have the power to seriously harm and maybe even topple the world government, which is an additional motivating factor for Robin. By discovering the truth, she could have her revenge against the world government by destroying it, and by ensuring that no one else will have to suffer the fate of Ohara. Robin possesses a very versatile devil fruit, the Hanahana no Mi, which enables her to duplicate and grow additional pieces of her body from any living creature or object, including her own body. Becoming a Straw Hat and following Luffy on his journey made perfect sense for Robin, because along the way she has uncovered new poneglyphs and many other secrets of the world. On top of that, the only other person who successfully located all the poneglyphs, found the One Piece, and discovered the truth of the world was the Pirate King, Goldie Roger. And that is exactly what Luffy is striving to become, the new Pirate King. Because of her abilities to read the poneglyphs, Robin will likely prove instrumental in finally locating Laugh-Tale, discovering the truth of the world, and ultimately defeating the world government. The information hidden on the poneglyphs and on Laugh-Tale will be of critical importance in the final arcs of the story, and in the final showdown between the Straw Hats and the world government. Since Robin is the best equipped to decipher all of this information and to make sense of it, I expect that her importance as a character will only grow in the coming arcs. When we talk about the power of the Straw Hats, we often focus on the monster trio and on Luffy and his new Gear 5th in particular. But the truth is that raw physical strength alone cannot lead the Straw Hats to Laugh-Tale, and it cannot bring down the world government. The ultimate weapon against the world government has always been knowledge, which is why the world government is so determined to hide the truth of the world, and why they are willing to destroy entire kingdoms just to keep the truth hidden. And with that in mind, we can understand why the world government is so incredibly afraid of Nico Robin. And we can understand why her role in the final arcs of the story will be just as important as those of Luffy, Zoro, or Sanji. Assuming that the Straw Hats succeed in their quest to overthrow the world government, Robin will likely continue her pursuit of knowledge, perhaps by rebuilding Ohara, or at the very least, by establishing her own university dedicated to uncovering the hidden truth of the world and the Void Century. In fact, she might even team up with Chopper and Trafalgar Law to establish a medical school as part of the university. And then if you happen to be a Robin and Law shipper, you'd be absolutely feasting, just saying. Okay, now let's talk about Franky, the genius cyborg shipwright of the Straw Hat crew. Initially, Franky was the leader of his own crew / family, and he was actually a rival of the Straw Hats. But he eventually joins Luffy's crew in order to fulfill his dream of building the world's greatest ship and sailing around the world with it. Since Luffy's dream is to sail around the whole world and become the Pirate King, his and Franky's dreams align pretty perfectly. And if Luffy does become the King of the Pirates, then he will need a ship befitting of such a title, and Franky will be the one to build it. Speaking of the Pirate King, as a kid, Franky was actually a member of Tom's workers, and Tom was his mentor. Tom was also known as the most skilled shipwright in the world, and he was the one who built the Oro Jackson, the very ship that Gold D. Roger used to circumnavigate the globe. After Tom's tragic execution, Franky decided that he would never make another ship again. But upon meeting the Straw Hats and seeing their love for their old ship, the Going Merry, Franky was inspired to build a new ship for the Straw Hats, the Thousand Sunny. The Thousand Sunny was made of atom wood, and it was made with the help of some of the world's best shipwrights. It has everything that the Straw Hats need, from baths and an aquarium bar to a mini Merry shopping boat. And with Franky joining the Straw Hats as the crew's permanent shipwright, the Thousand Sunny might actually last long enough to make it to the final island without falling apart with all the shenanigans that the Straw Hats put it through. I think that Franky's final form will involve turning the Thousand Sunny, or another great ship like maybe the ancient weapon Pluton, into some sort of mecha battleship that he himself will be able to merge with and control Super Sentai style. Or maybe I should say Gurren Lagann style. Initially, I thought that Vegapunk will be the one who will help the Straw Hats learn to use the ancient weapons. But after the events of the Egghead Island arc, it's much more likely that Franky will be the one to learn to pilot Pluton, with Robin's help, of course. And I think that all of this will come into play in a big way during the final battle against the world government, but more on that later. In the end, after the final battle is won and the world government is defeated, I believe that Franky will continue where Vegapunk left off. He will study the advanced technology of the ancient kingdom and use it to benefit the lives of everyday people in the post-world government world. Soul King Brook is the musician of the Straw Hat crew, and he has a very interesting and tragic backstory. He is actually the oldest member of the crew since he was born 90 years ago, but he died at the age of 38 before being brought back to life by the power of his devil fruit, the Revive fruit. In his past life, Brook was a member of the Rumbar Pirates, a pirate crew from the West Blue that sailed the seas over 50 years ago. At one point during their journey, the crew took in a baby whale who loved the beautiful music that the Rumbar Pirates played. Brook named the whale Laboon, and he became a beloved member of the crew. Because the Grand Line was no place for a baby whale, the Rumbar pilots left Laboon with Crocus at Reverse Mountain before departing to sail the Grand Line. They promised to come back for Laboon a few years later, once they managed to successfully circumnavigate the globe and return to Reverse Mountain. Unfortunately, the Rumbar pirates would meet a tragic end during their journey through the Grand Line. Several members of the crew, including the captain, died from an incurable disease. Brook then took over as captain and tried to lead the rest of the crew through the Grand Line, but they were eventually attacked inside the Florian Triangle, and every member of the Rumbar pirates died. Before their death, they recorded one last song for Laboon, and Brook promised that after being revived due to the devil fruit power he consumed, he would one day return to Laboon and play that song for him. Unfortunately for Brook, after his death, his soul did not find his body for about a year, so when he was finally revived, his physical body had already decomposed. That is why Brook is now practically a living skeleton. That said, the unique relationship between his body and soul has provided him with some interesting and extremely useful paranormal powers, such as separating his soul from his body, and this is all on top of his already impressive swordsmanship skills. Now of course, Brook has many interests and ambitions as a member of the Straw Hat crew. He wants to make beautiful music, he wants to help fight for justice against the world government, he likes panties, and so on. But his primary dream is to finally fulfill his promise to Laboon after more than 50 long years. and the final battle in the story will allow him to do exactly that. In fact, the song that he wants to sing for Laboon, Binks Sake, is in itself a big clue about how Brook's dream directly relates to the climax of the One Piece story. Now it's time to talk about the heroic helmsman of the Straw Hat Pirates, the Knight of the Sea, Jinbe. Jinbe is a fishman pirate and a former warlord of the sea, as well as a former member of the legendary Sun Pirates. Jinbe's dream is to fulfill the dying wish of his former captain Fisher Tiger, which is to end the discrimination against fishmen on the surface and bring about a peaceful coexistence between humans and fishmen. Initially, Jinbe believed that becoming a warlord of the sea would give him enough influence with the world government to secure better treatment for fishmen. However, he eventually realized that the liberation of the fishmen wouldn't be achieved by serving the world government, and he decided to join the Straw Hat Pirates, who already declared war on the world government. This tells us that Jinbe now believes that overthrowing the oppressive world government is the best way to secure true freedom and equality for the fishmen, and I personally think that he is 100% correct. The Celestial Dragons see themselves as inherently superior to everyone, including humans and fishmen, and in many cases they see fishmen like Shirahoshi as little more than exotic pets. There is little hope that this mentality will change in the near future, so if you want to liberate the fishmen, working against the world government is a far better choice than working with them. By joining the Straw Hats and becoming an important and beloved member of the crew, Jinbe has demonstrated by example that humans and fishmen can indeed coexist peacefully and on equal terms. His support of the Straw Hats also gives Luffy's crew credibility with the fishmen because they respect Jinbe, and if Jinbe trusts Luffy and the Straw Hats, then the rest of the fishmen can trust them too. The close friendship and camaraderie between Jinbe and Luffy serves the dual purpose of convincing other fishmen to support the Straw Hats, while also convincing other humans on the surface that fishmen are friends and allies. Even though his dream is of a peaceful coexistence between fishmen and humans on the surface, Jinbe is still an extremely powerful and skilled fighter. He is not just a pacifist who wants to spread messages of peace with pretty words. He is prepared to fight for what is right. He is a master of fishman karate, and for the Straw Hats, Jinbe is an important asset both when it comes to diplomacy and when it comes to battle. In the past, Jinbe tried to work with Big Mom because her goal of peaceful coexistence among the races of her domain was something that Jinbe could relate to. But let's face it, Big Mom is pretty unhinged, so joining the Straw Hats was definitely the better bet for Jinbe. As we approach the final arc of the story, the ultimate showdown between the Straw Hat Grand Fleet and the world government is becoming more and more likely. And that very showdown will provide Jinbe with the opportunity to achieve his ultimate dream. But before breaking all of that down, let's talk about the honorary member of the Straw Hats, Nefeltari Vivi. Originally, Vivi's main goal was to liberate her country, Alabasta, from Crocodile's attempt to take over and control it. After starting out as a pretend antagonist, Vivi soon teamed up with Luffy and the Straw Hats to bring Crocodile and his criminal empire down. After an outright civil war, and after multiple life-or-death battles against Crocodile, Luffy, Vivi, and the Straw Hats managed to end the civil war and save Alabasta. Crocodile was then arrested and taken to Impel Down. Vivi had a strong desire to join the Straw Hats and sail the Grand Line with them, but in the end she decided to stay behind in Alabasta in order to help rule the kingdom and undo the damage that Crocodile and the Civil War caused. Vivi is a noble ruler who deeply cares about her people, and although thus far she has been largely limited to Alabasta, Vivi is definitely the kind of ruler who could help govern the rest of the world in a just way after the world government falls. Since we know that Luffy isn't exactly interested in being a ruler or politician, Vivi is likely to have an important role in the new post-world government world, and she will be instrumental for preserving peace and stability in the future. When the truth about the Reverie was finally revealed, we learned that Vivi's ancestor, Nefertari Lily, was one of the 20 founders of the world government. But in reality, she betrayed the world government and sided with Joy Boy and the Ancient Kingdom. Lily was the one who allowed the Poneglyphs to escape world government control, and in a secret letter to her brother, Lily revealed that their family are actually members of the infamous D clan. Because he knew this sensitive information, Vivi's father Nefertari Cobra was brutally murdered by Imu and the Gorosei, and Vivi herself just barely managed to escape with her life thanks to some assistance from Sabo, Wapol, and Morgans. So at this point in the story, Vivi is traveling the world with Wapol and Morgans as the Straw Hats wage war on the Gorosei. Vivi has an important legacy to fulfill as an ancestor of Lily and a member of the D clan. She has a duty to her kingdom and its people, and she will likely want to avenge the unjust murder of her father at the hands of the Gorosei. All of this means that Vivi will likely assume a more active role in the final arcs of the story. And as I said already, I expect her to also assume a very active role in governing the new world once the world government finally collapses. So, what will the final showdown between the Straw Hats and the world government look like? And how will this one single event allow all of the Straw Hats to finally achieve their dreams? I believe that the final showdown will occur when the Straw Hat Grand Fleet attacks the Red Line at the very spot where Marie-Joie is located. We know that the revolutionaries are already targeting Marie-Joie by effectively blockading it, which is driving the Celestial Dragons to complain that they are running out of their many cherished luxury items, since there is no safe way to import them into Marie-Joie. But all of that is just a prelude to the real battle. The real battle will occur when the revolutionaries and the Straw Hat Grand Fleet join forces, and when they use the three ancient weapons to destroy the Red Line right below Marie-Joie. Destroying the Red Line at this location will effectively annihilate the capital of the world government, which will be a major practical and symbolic blow against the regime. This will also destroy Fishman Island, just as the prophecy foretold, but the Fishmen will be safe because they will use Noah to evacuate up to the surface, which is where they've always wanted to move to anyway. The destruction of the Red Line at this location will not only destroy Fishman Island, but it will also finally connect the four seas into one, uniting the world and literally creating the all blue that Sanji has always dreamed of. So that covers Sanji's dream, but also Nami's dream. Assuming that she is there during that battle, she will be the first cartographer to document this massive change on the maps of the world, which will make her the most famous cartographer and navigator on the planet. The journey leading up to the battle will involve Nico Robin finding out the truth of the world, including everything about the Void Century, the ancient weapons, and the ancient kingdom. The fall of Marie-Joie and the end of the world government will then fulfill her dream of finally getting justice for Ohara, and of ensuring that the world government can't do what they did to Ohara to anyone else. With the collapse of the oppressive and discriminatory regime of the world government, the fishmen, who are now coming to the surface, will be able to coexist peacefully with humans, and that will fulfill Jinbe's dream. I believe that the Red Line can only be destroyed by using all three ancient weapons, including the world's greatest battleship, Pluton. Franky will likely play a major role in repairing, restoring, and actually learning how to pilot Pluton. And so he will achieve his dream of contributing to the building and then sailing the greatest ship in the world. And that ship will of course be used to win the battle against the world government. Just like with Franky, the final battle itself will fulfill Usopp's dream. If he takes part in this battle as one of the heroic captains of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet, Usopp will become known as one of the bravest pirates in the history of the world. He will likely get to fight alongside some of the bravest giants from Elbaf during this battle. He might even get to fight alongside his father if Shanks joins the war. And he can also become known as the world's greatest marksman if he can help Franky aim the ancient weapons at the Red Line and destroy it. The final battle will also give Zoro the opportunity to finally prove himself as the greatest swordsman in the world. During this battle, he will face off against Noosjuro or Shiryu or whoever else ends up being the main swordsman villain, and he will then defeat them to claim the greatest swordsman title for himself. As for Chopper, he will fulfill his dream of becoming the greatest doctor and curing every disease by studying the advanced knowledge of the ancient kingdom that the world government has been trying to suppress for 800 years. He will gain some of that knowledge in the lead up to the final battle as more secrets are discovered along the way, and he will gain the rest of the knowledge once the world government is overthrown and there is no one preventing him from researching the ancient kingdom and its advanced medical knowledge. The fall of the Red Line will absolutely change the world, and it will bring justice to so many victims of the world government, including Vivi and her late father. Vivi's beloved kingdom of Alabasta will then be free to govern itself independently and fairly, and Vivi herself will likely become an extremely important diplomat who will help to ensure that other countries are also being fairly governed. Her experience with ruling Alabasta and her desire to be truly just and fair will be extremely important in setting up a new global diplomatic order after the ruthless dictatorship of the world government finally falls apart. Once the Straw Hats find Laugh-Tale and sail around the entire world, Brook will be able to fulfill his promise to Laboon by meeting him again and finally playing Binks' sake for him. This could occur before the final battle, or it could occur after the Red Line falls. But the ultimate fulfillment of Brook's dream will be when he sings Binks' sake at the end of the final battle in the middle of the newly created All Blue, as the entire world comes together to celebrate and sing this ancient melody. From everything we know so far, it seems clear that the song, Bing Sake, is actually an oral history that tells the truth about the Void Century and the war between the world government and the Ancient Kingdom. And so, this song will be the perfect way to end the entire story. In the midst of the world's greatest celebration at the site where the Red Line fell, and in the midst of the newly created All Blue. And last but not least, what about Luffy? What is his true secret dream? The dream that is even more ambitious than becoming the Pirate King and finding the One Piece. Luffy has always been driven by the idea of freedom, and as Joy Boy / Nika, his greatest dream is to spread freedom to the entire world. He wants to unite the world, end discrimination, and bring joy to all. The only way to achieve this is to tear down the world government, unite the 4 oceans into one, and throw the world's biggest party to celebrate right in the middle of the newly created All Blue. This theory about Luffy's goal being the world's biggest party has been explored extensively by Arthur from the Library of Ohara, and I always recommend checking out Arthur's content. It is absolutely great. Arthur also expressed the belief that the sake that everyone will drink at the world's greatest party may be the One Piece itself, though I personally think that the One Piece will be something more useful in battle, such as the 3 ancient weapons coming together into one piece. The one ultimate weapon that has the power to destroy the Red Line. Either way though, I believe that the destruction of the Red Line at Marijois is inevitable in the final arc of the story. And I believe that this epic act and its direct consequences will allow every Straw Hat to achieve their greatest dream. What do you guys think? Do you agree, disagree? Let me know down in the comments. If you're looking for another epic One Piece video to watch next, check out my video explaining the powers of every Gorosei, link in the description and on screen right now. If you enjoyed this video, drop a quick like to let me know, and if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell, it helps me out a lot.